another episode of Search It Up with Sienna, the web series where I use IMDb to discover and talk about all different types of movies and TV shows, and how the people in front of and behind the camera not only make it all possible, but are somehow all interconnected. I talk directly with the talent about their backstories and experiences on and off set, and what they're up to today. On my last episode, we talked about the movie E.T., and the casting director on the movie E.T. was Marcy Lira. She was also the casting director on the 2003 film Freaky Friday. So today, I'm going to be talking about the movie Freaky Friday. And joining me is the editor of Freaky Friday, Bruce Green. Freaky Friday is a comedy movie directed by Mark Waters. It's about a mom, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, and a daughter, played by Lindsay Lohan, who switch places. And until they find a way to switch places back, the mom, Jamie Lee Curtis, has to find a way to get used to her daughter, Lindsay Lohan, and then the other way around. And what's really helpful, I think, for both of them is that they get to learn more about each other. So by the time they switch back, they have a better relationship than ever. And the movie is really funny just to see all the crazy things that happen. And I think it has some great life lessons in it. I talk all about the movie and more in my interview with editor Bruce Green. His credits also include Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, Punchline, Cool Runnings, Angels in the Outfield, The Princess Diaries, Home Alone 3, Runaway Bride, Raising Helen, Mr. Popper's Penguins, Magic Camp, and so many more great movies. And now, without further ado, here's my interview with Bruce Green. How did you get started working in film, and what interested you in the industry?
Well, I wanted to work in films because I love films, and I went to film school. I went to a school called the California Institute of the Arts. When I got out of film school, I just started. I was in Los Angeles, which was the center of, the film business in the United States at the time, and I just started knocking on doors and trying to get any. I didn't necessarily want to be a film editor. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to work in the film industry. I wanted to be somebody who contributed to the making of the movies. It wasn't like, oh, I want to be a director or I want to be an editor. I just wanted to be part of this world, And actually, the very first job I got was on a Western, and I got my first day. There was a corral with a lot of horses in it, and a man handed me a shovel and told me to shovel up and take out all the horse poop in the corral. And so that was my first job working in the film business, and I must say that I was thrilled to do it. I was so excited. It's like I'm working in the movies, shoveling horse poop. So I eventually I found myself in an editing room. I had done a lot of other little jobs. These are like getting coffee for the camera person, or taking the producers dry cleaning or anything they asked me to do, I would do as long as I felt like I was somehow contributing to the making of a movie. Yeah. And but once I found myself in an editing room, I felt very comfortable. I really liked being in the editing room, and I liked the people I met, and I discovered that I had a knack for it, and that's where I stayed. I liked it more than being on the set. I worked on the set as a camera assistant for some films that you've never heard of, that for years and years ago, and I didn't like. I mean, everybody thinks that's the best place to be. Be on the set with the movie stars and all that. I didn't really enjoy it. It was too chaotic, and I don't know. didn't feel like I fit in. I like being in the editing room.
Uh-huh.
It's a little quieter. And what really was important is I wound up working for an editor who was Steven Spielberg's editor. Um, and he sort of trained me. And that was really what was so important, was to find a mentor, somebody that liked me and took an interest in me and wanted to teach me and help me succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And that made all the difference in terms of my career. And I think that for people that want to work in the film business, finding a mentor is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and I was an assistant editor for him. Well, before that, I was an assistant editor on the first Star Wars movie. And then I was an assistant editor on Raiders of the Lost Ark and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And uh, and that really, those films were big, big hits. So that when I eventually became a film editor, um, people thought, oh, he worked on Star Wars, he must be great. But I wasn't any greater than friends of mine who worked on lesser known movies. And Star Wars is not a great movie because of any of my contributions to it. But the way Hollywood works is if you're associated in any way with a hit movie, then people think, oh, he must be a genius. It's like the movie is a big shining light, and anybody that gets near that light glows because of how much the movie shines. So, I mean, you could have been, you know, the janitor on Star Wars. After Star Wars came out, people would assume that you were the best janitor in Hollywood. So I was very lucky in that way.
Yeah, definitely. I heard you worked in animation and then visual effects. How did you transition into editing?
Um, I I worked in visual effects, and a person that I worked with got hired to work on Star Wars, and they had at a point came when they were making Star Wars. What happened was George Lucas created a company called Industrial Light and Magic to do all the visual effects in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And then a point came when they weren't able to finish all the visual effects by the time they wanted the film to be released. So they had to find other companies to work on the visual effects with them. And they needed somebody who would help organize all of that, like pick the shots that needed to go to other companies, find the other companies to make those shots, and supervise the making of the shots. And I was hired to do all of that. And then a time came when the union that represents all the people that work on films came in to organize people and get them to join the union. And I was asked to join, and I was told that the work that I was doing was the work that's part of the editors union. And I was asked to join the editors union, and I did that. And then I was in the editors union, and then I could work on editing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I also understand you train under Michael Kahn as an assistant editor on Raiders of the Lost Ark. What
Yeah.
did your role involve in that?
Well, when you're an assistant editor working, now you have to understand, when I was working for Michael on Raiders of the Lost Ark, everything was on film. There were no computers.
Mm-hmm.
Editing has changed very, very much in the last 25 years since computers came out.
Uh-huh.
We were on film. We had about 700,000 feet of film, right? And there are 16 frames in each foot. So these are the little 35 millimeter frames of film. So I've never done the math, but there were, maybe there were 1 million frames of film. My job was to know where every one of those frames of film were at any given time. Okay. And there's whole systems to do that. So my main job was to keep track of all of the film, know where it is, so that if Steven Spielberg were to say, oh, I need a close up of Harrison Ford, doing something, I would be able to find that piece of film for him and say, here it is. That's what I did.
That's really cool. And you were the editor of Freaky Friday in 2003 with Mark Waters directing. Can you talk about your experience working on that movie?
That was a lot of fun. That was, I think, the first film I did with Mark. I did a number of films with him, and I really liked the script, and I really liked the cast. I thought Lindsay was a really good young actor, and yeah, it was wonderful. I mean, one of my contributions, I'm the first one as the editor to see the film, right? So if they have a scene in a movie where they'll shoot lots of the different pieces, and then they send them all to me, and I'm the one that assembles those pieces in an order that makes it flow as a story. Uh-huh. And I have a lot of choices in terms of what I use and don't use. So I'm the first person to do that, and I'm the first person then to see the film. And then I show the film to the director, Mark Waters in this case, and then he makes a lot of changes. He might say, oh no, instead of being in this close-up of Lindsay at this moment for this line, could that be a wide shot? Or instead of, you have Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay having an argument back and forth, and I have to decide when I'm showing Lindsay or when I'm showing Jamie, and the director might change that, and then I change it for them.
Oh wow, that's pretty interesting. And this Freaky Friday was a remake. Did you consider the previous version when editing?
No, I never even looked at it.
Oh wow. And is your process or approach different with comedy, like this, like Freaky Friday, versus horror or adventure movies?
Well, my approach is to edit in such a way that the audience stays completely engaged in the story. And there are different things that you want. When with a comedy, you want people to laugh at a certain moment. With a horror film, you want people to go like this, with some kind of drama, you want people to lean forward. So I'm very conscious of what the audience is doing and trying to do whatever tricks I can do in the editing to make that occur, to make that happen,
What was most rewarding part about editing?
Well, being part of the process of making movies, I find very rewarding. And when you're doing a film that's being released in a theater as opposed to a television thing, to sit in an audience and watch 300 people scream or laugh or yell because of something I did with the editing is very rewarding. That's very exciting.
Yeah. And that seems like it definitely would make you feel like it was a big part about what you did.
Yeah.
At what point in process did you start editing? Did you start editing before they finished shooting or after?
Yes. Most of the time, I'm editing like what they shoot. It can take months to shoot a movie. Okay. I'm about to start a movie. It's a small film. They're going to take 20 days to shoot the film. Okay. What they photograph on a Monday, I will get whatever they photograph on a Monday, I will get on Tuesday morning. By Tuesday night, I want to have edited everything they did on Monday. so that way I can say to the director, if there's anything that the director didn't get or was missing or doesn't work, I can call the director and say, you're still making the movie, but we really should have a close up of this person. Or in the scene where the person opens up the refrigerator, it would be nice to have to show the inside of the refrigerator. Or if they're pouring a cup of coffee, it'd be nice to have a close up of the coffee cup and the coffee being poured in. I might say those kind of things. I don't know, a lot of times they get everything they're supposed to have, and I don't have to say anything. But I'm constantly editing as they're shooting, so I can be helpful to them, since they still have the actors, they still have the set, they still have the location, and they can go and pick up more shots.
How many re-edits do you usually do if you do?
It depends on the scene. There are scenes. I was on the phone earlier today with a director that I worked on. I'm working on something, and I've got a scene where there's a stunt where a woman goes flying off of a motorcycle. The motorcycle crashes. She goes flying through the air, and this man catches her, in his arms, and then they fall in love. And that scene, I've probably cut 25 times. Whereas there are other scenes in the film where I cut one time and the director looks at it and says, that's fine. So I'd say on average, I probably cut every scene 4 or 5 times. Before. And also, I'm editing it until I'm happy with it. Then what happens is the director looks at it. Then the director starts playing around with it until they're happy with it. But the big and then the producer comes in and they might play around with it. But the big deciding thing is you put it in front of an audience. You put it in front of a test audience. So on all of the films that I've made, we've tested them where we would put them, not me, but people, they would recruit an audience of, say, 200, like for a film like Freaky Friday, they would recruit an audience and they'd go to a theater and you'd show the film to 200 teenagers, mostly girls between the ages of, say, 12 and 20, and you'd see if they were reacting the way you wanted them to react to a scene. If they didn't laugh at a joke that was meant to be funny, then I'd go back and re-edit the joke to try to make it funnier. So
you have worked with so many award-winning directors, such as Gary Marshall and Mark Waters. What is the experience like in the editing room working with the director?
Well, mostly it's wonderful. I mean, they come into the editing room and they have a lot of very good ideas, and they tell me their ideas, and then I do the work of making their ideas, work. And sometimes, it's a lot of fun. I mean, Gary especially was a wonderful guy. He's since passed away, but he was a lot of fun. Mark was fun. I find most directors to be really, really smart, and have really creative ideas, and I'm just there to help them.
And do you have a memorable experience working on one of the movies you've edited?
The Princess Diaries.
Mm-hmm.
When they shot that film, they shot the early stuff of the film first. Mm-hmm. And I had never seen Anne Hathaway. And they shot this stuff where she had all the frizzy hair and all that. And then they had that makeover scene.
Yeah.
And I remember getting the dailies, which is the raw film, before I had edited it. And I saw the shot where these two pictures went across like this, and you saw Anne for the first time all made up and with her hair straightened and stuff. And I was really shocked. I had no idea she was so beautiful, So that was interesting. And so that was a lot of fun to cut that scene, because people in the audience were like, oh, that saw it for the first time. That was fun. Freaky Friday, was a lot of fun to do. That was a um, yeah, that was great. Jamie Lee Curtis, she plays the guitar near the end, and she practiced really hard to learn how to play the guitar for that scene, to try to get it as realistic as possible. She worked really, really hard on that. Um, there's a film. Did you ever see a film called Cool Runnings?
I don't think I have, no.
Okay. Cool Runnings is a film about a bobsledding team from Jamaica that goes to the Olympics. It's based on a true story. That might be my favorite film I've ever done. And that was wonderful because the studio that was making it didn't think it was going to be that good a film, but it was a big, big hit, and the audiences loved it, and that was exciting. That film especially.
Yeah, those are some pretty good experiences, though. And editing programs, I'm sure, have changed a lot over the years. How has it changed your job? Have you ever had to switch different programs?
Yeah, well, I switched from editing on film to editing on computers. The computer software that I'm using now is just an updated version of the software I started from. I edit on a program called Avid, which is the most professional film editing program that's used by probably 90% of the films that you watch, or television shows you see. There are many other programs, like if you see a TikTok video or something edited on YouTube, it's probably edited by a different program, which is less difficult to learn and less expensive to buy. But the big professional movies are all done on Avid. But going from film to computer was very, very difficult. And that took about a year. And at the time, I was married and I had 2 young children. And I just said to myself that if I don't learn this computer program and learn how to do the editing on the computer, I'm not going to be able to work anymore. And my children and I, we will all be homeless. So I kind of scared myself into working hard and learning. But the thing to know is that whether you're editing on film or on a computer program called the Avid, or in iMovie, or Final Cut Pro, or any of these other Premiere, there's lots of programs, that part of the job is this much. But the editing is about the decisions, how I'm going to join, technically how I'm going to join a close-up to a wide shot, to a different angle, and the technology of how I make those cuts is not what's important. What's important is the deciding at what point I'm going to make that cut and which shot I'm going to go to next. Okay? Because if you have a scene, if we were in person, right? If it wasn't for COVID, let's imagine you and I are sitting at a table and we're talking to each other, and somebody else is directing what's going on. So there would be probably a wide shot of the 2 of us talking. Then there would be a close-up of you. There'd be a close-up of me. There would be what's called an over-the-shoulder, where you see some of my shoulder, my head, and you see you, and then a reverse. And then maybe there's some people in the room walking around that you cut to sometimes, watching what we're doing. Maybe there's a plate of cookies on the table, and you're sometimes taking a cookie or having a drink of coffee or soda or whatever. So the editor is given all of that material, and then you have to decide, okay, when do I want to be, like I'm talking a lot, So at some time I might want to cut to you listening. So you just lean forward and I might say, oh, that's great where she leans forward. So we're going to put that at some point where Bruce says something interesting. And now we're going to have a shot of Sienna's mother is going to walk by in the background, and we have that shot. At what point are we going to cut to that? And then at what point are we going to show the two people, Sienna and Bruce, talking to each other at the table, as opposed to just being in close-up? So those are the decisions I'm making all the time.
Got it. And that's actually kind of funny about all these decisions, because I have two examples of where I've kind of worked with editing a little bit. One is my show, Search It Up with Sienna, is my dad and we use iMovie to edit all the different things together, because I have something that was on intro and outro. So I introduce what we're talking about today, and I would introduce you, and then I would say like a fun fact to end it, and what I'm going to do next. What I'm next. And then in 5th grade, we had to do these, a project. We could pretty much choose anything we wanted to do. It could be a video, it could be a performance right there, it could be a song, and as long as the teacher approved of it, and it could be any topic. And I chose animation, the history of animation, and I had to edit on an animation platform all of the clips together, and then I did a video. I recorded a bunch of different animation movies, and I put it in a song. So I had to edit those clips together, and then I had to put the song to make sure it was at the right place. So I agree. I agree and see what you're saying about how it's the editor's decision how you do it. So.
Right. And what I find is that when I'm doing this, I love doing it. And I completely forget about everything else in the world, and I forget about time, and I just get sucked into the work, and it fits me in my personality. There are some people that hate doing it, and there are other people who love it, and I'm one of those people that love it.
If you could take another role on a film, what would it be?
Well, it would depend if I had the talent for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I don't play an instrument, okay, but I would, if I was given, if somebody could hit me with a magic wand and I could have the talent of being a film composer, that would be a great job. And and maybe being the cinematographer, thinking in terms of visuals and pictures, that would be good. I don't think I'd want to be a director. People have talked to me about and asked me if I would direct films, and I've said no. It's too much work. I know. You have to be able to focus as a director. You have to know everything, and you have to be able to focus on everything. The acting, the camera, the editing. I mean, you're supposed to know a lot about lots and lots of. It's just I think it's too difficult for me.
Yeah.
I have great admiration for directors.
And when you watch movies, do you think about how you would edit them if it was your movie?
No, I just watch movies and enjoy them or don't enjoy them. I mean, occasionally I might see something and go, oh, that's a clever bit of editing, or that bit of editing doesn't work. But I try to watch movies the same way everybody else does, just as an audience member to be entertained.
Yeah, definitely. And what is one of your all-time favorite movies?
Well, it runs the gamut. I mean, in that I love The Matrix. I thought that these are movies I didn't do. I liked The Matrix. I thought was a great movie. But there's a very old movie called Casablanca that I like. That I remember. There was another very old movie, a French movie called Un Chien Andalou, which is a surrealist film that I like that had a big effect on me. I'm watching Game of Thrones now, which I hadn't seen before. That's pretty.
Yeah,
That's,
I've heard of Game of Thrones, and I know a
yeah,
lot of people
that's pretty powerful. And a friend of mine was the editor on it, so I like that.
So the plot of Freaky Friday is that the mom and daughter switch places. If you could switch with someone for a day, who would you switch with?
Oh my word, what a question. If I could switch places for a day, who would I switch with? Uh, I don't know. I'd probably switch with somebody who has a different life experience, who's very different from me. I mean, to like just somebody from a different world. Like like I'd switch with maybe a Chinese woman. I mean, or I mean, somebody that's like the complete as foreign and as different from me as possible, so I could experience the world through somebody else's eyes and see what that's like. That would be interesting. But it would be somebody probably. I mean, I'd have to be able to understand their language, but it would be somebody very different from me. A different race, a different gender, a different nationality. I would be curious if they really experience the world any different than I do, or if we're all the same, really, underneath everything.
That's a great answer. I think it kind of. I mean, it's you even more because you just, like you said, a whole different race and a whole different gender. So that's completely probably not like you at all. But like it's kind of like with Freaky Friday too, because the mom is like very like uptight and like fancy,
right.
And the daughter is very like just she loves rock and stuff.
Right. Yes. Well, that was I actually. When I read the script from Freaky Friday, I made a suggestion to Mark Waters, which they did, which was that when you first see Jamie Lee Curtis, she would have some Purell and she'd be like a germaphobe. And this was like long before COVID, when people didn't use hand sanitizer all the time. It was an unusual thing. So I suggested that Jamie have something like that. And then once they switched bodies, Lindsay, when Jamie was inside Lindsay's body, all of a sudden Lindsay Lohan would be using this, and her friends would be like, "What are you doing that for?" So that's an example of something that I did, that I suggested that they put in the movie, that I thought was good.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a great idea. Actually, it definitely shows some very little details, but yeah. Big difference.
Right.
Well, I want to thank you so much for doing this. I had so much fun talking to you, and I learned so much about the editing.
Well, it's my pleasure. I wish you luck. I hope this was helpful and you learned something. And I look forward to seeing it on Instagram.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Bruce. It was so cool to hear your perspective as an editor. And now, before we search it up, I have 2 quick fun facts to share with you. The first one is that in the movie Freaky Friday, the snapshots in the opening credits are actually photos of Jamie Lee Curtis and her daughter, Annie Guest. My second fun fact is that a while back, I interviewed Stephen Tobolowsky for the movie Groundhog Day. He's also in the movie Freaky Friday playing Mr. Bates. Isn't that cool? And now it's time to search it up. Let's see. Oh, Bruce Green was the editor of Freaky Friday, and he was also the editor on Family Ties Vacation, the TV movie. I love Family Ties. Well, see you next time to talk about Family Ties Vacation.